Ready.
All right. Great morning, everyone. So excited to be here with you today. For those of you that are new, welcome to our Breakthrough Mastermind group. Again, the premise here is to help each other by providing intellect, knowledge, intel to help take our business to the next level. So we're not here to pitch our business, although, again, I would love for you guys to make connections and use that chat to connect. But I'm so excited, guys. Mark McClatchy is somebody that I've been waiting to get on this roster for a long time. He is going to be sharing the networking process with us today. Everybody on this group is obviously a networker in some capacity, but you are definitely going to want to take notes. Mark is a rock star. I know that there are several businesses that have brought him on as a consultant just to get this insight. So this is going to be absolutely incredible. Just over the last year, and we're going from August to August, Mark was able to produce 319 referrals just in that 1 year time slot. So that's about a referral a day almost. He created 19 partnerships in the last year, developed 25 or more, high value COI connections. 82 sales resulted in these connections. He started a company. He's a husband. He's an incredible guy. I can't stress enough, if you have not had a conversation with Mark McClatchy, you need to. He will absolutely help you take your business to the next level. So, guys, we all know the importance of networking. You may have heard of this before. Your network is equal to your net worth. The people that you surround yourself with are absolutely critical. It doesn't matter what industry vertical that you are in, you can always control the people you're surrounding yourself with. So definitely take notes. Again, it's very simple. All we're going to do, we're going to give the floor to Mark. He's put together an incredible presentation for today. He's going to speak for about 15 minutes. As soon as he gets done, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and jot them down. In the meantime, we'll open it up to Q&A, get some feedback, and really get the group going. So let's dive right into it. Mark, I'm going to hand the floor over to you to dive into our networking talk.
I appreciate that. Thanks. And there's the outline that I'm going through today. It could be a useful tool. Keegan's going to share that with all you guys at some point today or after our call today, so you'll have access to that. So there's a lot we could go into, but I understand I'm going to have 15 minutes to talk, and then we'll go into an open up Q&A. So I want to try to go through this as quickly as possible. But there's a lot going on with this, and what helped me produce those 319 referrals. And those, when Keegan mentioned that, those are referrals I gave to other people. And I equate my success on purely how much I'm able to give to other people, because it funnels down to quality, steps for me when you do it strategically. There's a thing about, oh yeah, karma when you just give. Yeah, there's certainly that. But when you do it strategically, there's a definite impact and a stepping process for yourself. I use a method, I just called it if you identify, find, understand, and educate. The first portion of that, the if you part, the identify, find, and understand, is all about others. Educate is all about you, and I'll explain what that means when we get to that. So in the identify and find, what are the verticals and industries that you focus on? So, I know a lot of people, when you hear it out there, be specific in your request when you're networking. I was always like, I had 5 verticals that I went after. So when I was out networking, those are the only 5 verticals anybody ever heard me talk about. Now, I got referrals in plenty of other verticals. And as I'll explain through our process on how that happens when we get to the education stage. But initially, I just go after those 5 verticals. So, while you may be able to work in every vertical that's out there, when I'm out networking, when someone goes, oh, I can help any business, I hear nothing when someone says anything. So don't say any, be specific in what you're looking for. And 99% of the time, you will tend to not remember when you talk to someone, when they go, oh, I look for any business that just needs a X, Y, and Z. How often do you hear that same guy? All those conversations meld into each other. When someone goes, I work in healthcare, GovCon, be specific. I'm looking for this person, this company. It's much better for you, and it's much better for your organization as far as your growth with business development. So after you identify the verticals that you focus on, you're turning that around to find those individuals that are focused on those same verticals that you're focused on. And then who you need to speak with is the next section. Align those with those who are speaking to the same person. If you're only focused on talking to the C-suite, one, you're looking at a particular size of business that would have a C-suite. And secondly, you're looking for a specific type of person. So if you talk to someone who's only wants to talk to the marketing director, that guy may be a referral source, but he's not someone who's going to be a key component in your network because he's not talking to the same guy, right? He might be able to get you in the door, but you still have to work your way up to get to the decision maker. But if you're networking with people that are talking to the same type of decision makers, so if you want to talk to small mom and pop, don't go after the guys doing the enterprise sales. Does that make sense? And then, like I said, who else is going after those same industries that you want to go after? So once you identify those industries, find out who's going after those same industries. When I started this process about 10 years ago and really kind of putting it into formation about 3 years in, I networked with anybody and everyone. I didn't care who you were meet. All I was looking for were problems. Because if I meet a problem today, I'll find someone tomorrow who's got that solution, and I just made a referral. And then I planted 2 seeds, and I'm going to possibly grow from that. I'm going to get something from that. But as time went on, I became extremely targeted. So after I identified the markets that I wanted to go after, I was only looking for people that targeted on those markets. And then I looked for people that did the best of what they did. I looked for someone that did unique. That's one of the reasons why I specifically pointed out Helix Intel. There is no other company in the world that does what these guys are doing. And of those 319 referrals, they got over 100 of them in the last year. I guarantee it. And that's why, because they have something so unique. I was able to open up so many doors for me, for my business, because I go, you know what, you need to know this company. And I was finding out what mattered to the folks I was going after. And another one of those companies that I also hooked up with Helix, which is a few friends on here. I know Keegan knows 1 or 2 folks. The Kiosk Group is another company that became a huge partner of mine. I mentioned them just because you should look them up. They're in Frederick, Maryland, but they became a true asset. They've probably received around 60 referrals from me in the past year alone. And then what you're looking for after this is, again, going back to that, who's looking after that same person. Make sure you're aligning with, not that someone who's only focused on the HR guy might not be of value to you, but you have to kind of rate them. If anyone agrees that networking is a fraternity, then we're in the wrong room. This is all about business. I want to make friends, but it's all about helping the client first. So when I go out networking, and why I gave so many more referrals than my average counterpart is when I'm in front of someone, I'm not looking to give a referral from someone in my network. I'm not looking to sell what I have. I'm looking to find out what problems they have and go, I know a guy. I know a girl. I got the solution to that problem. So I was letting them tell me where I needed to find. And you first do that by the market, by the vertical. What are the general issues or concerns or problems with that market? Start looking for the people that do those solutions. Then when you get down to the individual customer, what are their specific problems and challenges? By identifying those, they'll tell you who they need to be referred to. If you don't know those people in your network, find them and make an introduction. And I guarantee if you find that more than twice, it's probably a regular issue. So maybe you need to know that guy because he can open the doors for you. Next time you're talking to a new prospect of saying, hey, have you had this problem? I've talked with other business owners that did, and this is what they do. You know what? I know a girl. Does that make sense? Keegan, how are we doing on time?
You're good. You got about 5 left.
Perfect. And then you're getting to understand when you find those people that are going after that market, understand the value of what they do, the impact that they create for their business owners. One, this will help you improve on how you introduce them. I have a financial planner that I introduce. I rarely mention he's a financial planner within the first 3 minutes of making that introduction, but by the time I get to it, they already want the introduction because it's what he does, the impact he creates. So it's the value that he gives to the other person. So it's not what you do that I care about. It's how can you make an impact? Because if you make an impact with the person I'm going to refer you to, that makes me look better. So that's what I'm looking for. So that's what you should be looking for, and understand that. And then outside of, if what you're selling is going to the CEO, it also is helpful to find out whoever in your network with their product or solution that they have, who else might it benefit? Whom else might it impact in that organization? Because if you're not talking to the CEO, but you're talking to a direct manager, will that service or product benefit them? Well, that's a good way for you to both get up that ladder to that CEO by helping that manager come in with the win of going, hey, I found this guy. You need to look at that. Does that make sense? And then you're listening to all of these value adds that your network provides, that these key contacts provide. And then you're simply regurgitating essentially their elevator pitch in your common conversations with people that you meet. And yes, there is a little bit of coaxing of getting them to discuss certain problems and challenges, but the more and more people that you meet, and even before I even had that right person in my network, I faked it until I made it. I knew that guy because I knew that someone in my network knew that person if I didn't, right? And that's a great way, because I guarantee you, if you go, I have a referral to give, does anyone know? I guarantee you someone will respond because they get it. They're like, hey, if I help this guy get a referral, it's going to look good for me. But every business owner that I met, when you find that impact, what's going to matter to them, and you can understand what the value is that your network gives, you can make a strong connection that builds a relationship, that plants two seeds, that even if that relationship doesn't work out in a deal, both parties are appreciative in a sense. You do that over and over again. I don't care if you want to call it karma or what, but it does build upon itself. And that's what allowed me to have that success that I've had, that's led me to open my own business that does just business development for companies and training on the side. And then through all this whole process, what you're doing from them in that understanding stage is now your responsibility as you garner these key partners in your network is to educate them on your value add. I did credit card processing for a number of years. I still provide referrals to that company. They're one of the companies I have under contract. I would detest any one of my referral partners, like, do not mention credit card processing in the first 60 seconds. If you do, I guarantee you, you're going to get someone that the answer is going to be no, right? Just to sum it up, or not interested, whatever the case may be. But when people would get to know me, even in the 5 verticals that I focused on, I never asked for a restaurant. Didn't like working with restaurants, but I have several in my portfolio because people got to understand the value and that I bring and the types of problems and challenges I'm able to overcome. And then when they were talking to a customer that they realized had similar problems, they go, hey, Mark, I know you don't normally work with restaurants, but this one's got this same problem that I've heard you talk about over and over again. And that's how I was able to get a home run in pizza out of Chicago from doing that type of process. If you're not familiar, it's a great pizza if you ever go to Chicago for home run in.
That is true.
So your process is to educate them and coach them on how to interweave your value add. Again, not what you do, but the value of what you do and how it impacts them into their regular conversations. If you can't illustrate to your network how it's a value to them to talk about you in front of their prospects, you're only going to wait on referrals instead of creating opportunities. And there's a big difference, because, go to every networking group, you give you 30 seconds, once in a while people say, oh, I found someone that asked or mentioned this, and I realized that. But when you start understanding people's value add, you learn to implant that, because you know that if you make an impact with the prospect you're going after, it's all good for you. All boats rise with the tide. So with that, I'll leave it up to questions. And, I know I talked kind of fast, and there was a lot I could probably spend an hour on that. I've given that presentation in 30 minutes and found out I didn't have enough time. So,
well, thank you so much, Mark. I know we're going to have a lot of questions. He said a lot of nuggets in there, guys. So if you didn't take notes, make sure that you get some down now. So I know that everybody on this call is probably in a different stage in their networking journey. You may be at the very beginning, you may be a vetted networker, or maybe you're kind of in the middle. I think that there's a different process for each person, because what we'll realize is that, we have a queen bee resource, as Roberto knows, but we have a resource that produces our income. And that really should be about 70% of our focus, but networking has to be a major focus. It's not going to be 80% of your week or 80% of your day, but you should always be putting at least 10, 15% throughout the week. So I've got a ton of notes here and a ton of feedback, but I'd love to hear from you guys first. So any direct questions or comments that anybody on here has for Mark?
Well,
Yes.
okay.
Go ahead, Patty.
Just for me, and with what you said, is something that I've been kind of working through my head, is getting more targeted at who I'm networking, because I'm spending scads of time networking. And although I'm getting some production, I need to be more specific. So that kind of just, kind of nailed that for me, because that's where I've been thinking. So I just have to learn how to go about doing that better.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a one size fits all, for someone who's had a longer career. I look at, like, what have you done in the past that might reflect, like, if what you're doing today can be of value to any of the work you've done in the past. So you worked in one industry and what you're doing today might be of value. Well, that's one natural connection. You should explore that, because if you already have contacts in that area, that's one thing to start to develop. But then identify, where do you like to work, right? Make this something you want to do. Like, what is an industry that, whether it's because of their mission or because of whatever market they're in, that you really like, and identify a few of those, and then whittle down who else also likes to go after that market. I was fortunate with companies like Helix and Kiosk, where, Helix overlapped with 90% of the markets that I'm going after. Kiosk was about 65. So that really made it easier, because I could talk about them in almost every situation, and vice versa.
So one thing I'd like to share, and then I'm going to give Ben and Dylan a chance, because I know you guys had some points, but the visual that I really like to use is that networking is it's like the stars in the sky. So what I mean by that is that if you were to go outside at night tonight and you were to create a constellation, the stars are already there. It's our responsibility to connect those dots to build the picture. And that's exactly what Mark's talking about, is that you have to know what that constellation is that you're making. You have to know what the verticals, the industries in that overlap with what you do, and then you connect all those dots on your own time. But Dylan, go ahead, man.
Sure. Thanks, Key. Mark, thanks so much for that. Definitely need to connect. I had similar thoughts as Patty with, I'm kind of at this stage now where I am getting more targeted with my networking, but I've been on this networking journey for like almost 2 years now. And I've just had this, like spray and pray mentality, like, connect with absolutely anybody, as you had mentioned, Mark. And that's been incredibly productive. However, once you've connected with more of your targeted audience and things you like to do, you realize quickly how much time was really being wasted, or a lot of these people are simply like using and abusing you. And to a certain extent, you want them to, right? You want to be the connector if this is what you're really trying to do. But my question to you, Mark, is how often are you monetizing these referrals? Because, myself, I have referral agreements, a stack of them outside of my full-time job. And for somebody who might be transitioning, like, I have an interest in knowing a little bit more about how you go about monetizing these referrals and that kind of thing.
Well, like with all of the agreements, and how I've kind of fell into this business, is it all came from a source where, how do I differentiate myself and not look just like any other credit card guy that's out there? And I noticed that, all right, I need to solve the problems that my prospects have. And if I do that, I will make an impression that I'm not just a credit card guy. I wanted to be seen as a consultant. And the way that I network and the way that my thought process works entirely is, what can I do to help you, right? It's not like, when I was early in my career, I tried to gobble up all these referral agreements where I made $1 if I'm making a referral, but they were all over the place. And I didn't get any success in that regard. When I started doing it the way I've been doing it for the past 6 or 7 years, it was all in a focus where I didn't focus on getting a referral agreement. I focused on aligning with companies that could solve the problems for the market and customers that I wanted to get. So I wasn't taking the eye off my prize. And then, a little over about a year ago, I met a company called Helix Intel. And I loved what they were doing. And I started referring them like night and day. And about 9 months into it, I was approached by their CEO about having a discussion about working with them in a professional capacity. We're in those negotiations right now, but I didn't go looking for it. They didn't come to me for that. I just realized that, wow, I know so many customers that I'm going after that would benefit from this person. So I didn't set any agreement based off of how much I'm going to make. It's all the agreements I have is this a valued product that's going to separate me and be of real value? Because I don't want to introduce somebody because I'm getting paid. I want to introduce because it's going to be of value. So that's one big direction. And then my first 18 months when I started this process were just like what you were talking about. It was everywhere, but I was doing it by design.
Yeah.
Because I got to a point where everyone knew, like, well, you really need to know Mark. Boy, that guy makes referrals. That guy connects people. But then I started being more selective with my time. One, I rarely do an hour-long meeting anymore, right? And when someone books one for me, I'm like, why? You can't expect, unless it's a customer meeting, 45 minutes is long enough for a beginning meeting. I meet Aaron from the kiosk group every week. Right? We set a half an hour. Sometimes we talk for 20 minutes. Sometimes we talk for an hour. But your regular go-to partners, half an hour in and out. You're not looking to get something. You're looking to gain something. Both of you are, right? So you can do it in a half an hour, right? In those initial conversations, you're looking to go, is this someone that I want to meet again and again? Or is this someone that I just want to hopefully retain their value? So when I come across somebody that would be a good fit, I can make an introduction. Because if you express to me a problem, and I know a guy, I don't care if it benefits me directly or not, because one, in the long run, I know it does. I'm not going to go out of my way to look for someone who focuses on restaurants. But if I find someone that has a problem, I know several key people that serve that industry. So I'm going to make an introduction because they serve other industries that I'm in that make a value for doing that. Does that help?
That helps tremendously. And I connect with restaurants, so we'll have to chat.
Yeah, then we need to talk about getting you connected with Ben.
Yeah,
Very cool.
definitely. Ben, go ahead, man.
Yeah, Mark, first of all, awesome presentation. Every time I hear you speak, I learn something new or several things. So I just have a couple of questions. Actually, back up just a little bit. I've met a lot of people through networking and stuff like that. And the people I want to connect with the most are the people that just don't talk the talk, but walk the walk. Mark obviously walks the walk. And so when I meet with the referrals that he gives me or other members of our team, the first thing those people usually say is, oh, Mark, he's a great guy. You know what I mean? It's just that alone helps to get through the door. So Mark, thanks for your presentation and everything. The first question is, you were talking about like the follow-ups with the people that you really find where you connect with and you find a lot of value what they do. Do you have a set cadence of how you follow up? Because I've been starting to set up follow-up meetings like 2 months later for the people I really gel with. But if you had some kind of system, how to like stay connected to the people you really feel like add value for you and that you can add value for them. And then I have a second question after that. Go ahead.
Well, like on the people that you meet with, like ideally, I want to have a handful of people that I'm meeting with every week for 30 minutes. I have 2 people that I meet weekly right now, but it's a very important slot, right? So I'm not looking just to fill it, right? I'm looking for that right person, because then there's someone that I meet every 2 weeks. There's some people that I meet every month. So it's gauged on what you're looking at, where they're focused. One of the reasons that Aaron is weekly is because we are both aligned in that same sense. We realize that if we just help enough other people get what they want, we're going to see success. And we know so many people that it's really easy for us to, hey, look, if you just open the door, tell us what your challenges are. We probably can help you out in that regard. But that's on the, yes, that's helpful. But it's also on the sense of, are they really aligned with your market, right? Like, don't make that the only criteria. You can't just like them. Like, oh, I really want, like, I like Aaron and I hang out personally, right? But it's not just because I like him. It's because the value of what they really bring. The same thing with Helix. It's not just because I like Ben and Rob and their owner, John. It's because I really see the value in what they do, and with direct relation to where I'm going after. So directly answer to your Ben, you focus it on, if you have your target market, where do they fall into that? Like Aaron and you guys hit on more than 3 of my 5 verticals, each of you. So you get my priority on everything because there's such a huge impact every time I help you versus helping someone that might just be in one vertical or none of my verticals. And so it's strategic, right? I'm not trying to upset anybody, but again, you're not joining a networking group and doing this to make friends. You hope that creates as a result of it, but it's about how do I benefit my customers and get more of them?
Yep. No, that makes sense. Thanks, Mark. And then lastly, what's your thoughts on the various networking groups that are out there, like BNI, and I don't know if you guys ever heard of V50, but there's all different ones that I'm learning about, and I get invited to them. Some you have to pay, some you don't. Just curious if you've gone.
If you've been to enough of them, you realize that no networking group is alike, meaning that, I've been to some phenomenal BNIs. I've been to some crappy ones too, And, for me, like when I was in BNI, I had to leave after 18 months because my market, I started to understand that I need to only focus with customers or with networks that are only selling to businesses. In BNI, for me, when you're B2B focused, the average BNI is 70-30. Only 30% of the businesses in there solely focus on selling to businesses. So while a plumber might find me a customer, he's not talking to my potential customer every day. Whereas someone who's focused on selling to businesses is. And that's not a target-rich environment, a 70-30. So if you're selling to consumer-based business type people, BNIs, groups like that are great. But if you're B2B solely, try to find B2B groups, and then I've never found any one group to go, oh, that's it, I've met all my needs, and I've upset people in my group. So why didn't you give them a referral? I'm like, I have a system. Like, if you're not the best person for my customer, I'm going to refer the best pen for them. I'm not giving a referral to help you. I'm giving a referral to help them. It just happens to help whoever I'm giving it to. And you have to have that mindset. You're not giving a referral to anyone in your network. You're giving it to your prospect, to your customer. When you realize that's what you're doing, it makes a difference on who you make that introduction to. Does that make sense? You see the
Awesome
difference?
point. Yeah, Mark. Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was great. So I'm gonna
ahead,
pass it
Joseph.
to you, Joe. One quick thing to interject here is that there's a theme that's coming up a lot, and that's that value add. I know a couple people on here know Dan Horwich. Yeah. So he has this system that's absolutely powerful, and he talks about the 4 buckets. So real quick, and then I'm going to pass it to you, Joe. When he breaks down those 4 buckets, basically the first bucket is when we're in this networking environment, the first bucket, those are people that are kind of narcissistic. They're never going to give you a referral. They'll take referrals all day long, but they never share them back. The second bucket, these are the people that they would give a referral, but they don't really know how to do it appropriately. So I'm going to bring that point back up to you in a second, Mark. The third one, these are people that they'll give you a referral here and there. It might not be super consistent. It's kind of sporadic, but they'll share some. And then the fourth and final bucket, and again, this is of course coming from Dan directly, but he says that this is only about 3% of the people that you'll ever meet with. So if you met 100 people in 2 months, only 3 of the people are going to fall into this fourth bucket. These are the people that are just going to constantly give you referrals. But Mark, you've made a lot of really interesting points, and I think I'm going to hone back in on these, but Joe, would love to hear from you first.
Well, no, I just want to say that I agree with a lot of things that been said. I think you should always give it to the best person. That's a really, really good point. I also see that as long as you follow everything what Mark and has mentioned, it actually works out. And there's no like equal relationship. Just because sometimes you can help someone all the time, but the other person cannot help you. But if you just selflessly help people, it bounces back if you just go around enough. But I wanted to ask you about the verticals. I'm trying to be more targeted as I've been doing it for some time. You mentioned 5 verticals. Do you approach all of them with a person, or do you select which vertical you're going to approach? How do you go about that?
I mean, for me, I looked at it from, well, I had 6 years in the Marine Corps. I used to work in the government contracting space. So government contractors, because I have a huge network in that space. So that was an easy vertical for me to select. And then a handful of partners that I was working with were focusing on the healthcare medical markets. And that's a great market for credit card and payroll. So that's how I identified that to be one of my markets. Manufacturing and distribution were also a great market in that same guise as healthcare. That's how I fell into that one. And then construction and the trades was just something as a common of the myriad, the average, like I like working with tradesmen because there's a lot of trades companies that are veterans and I like working with veterans. So but then I would work all the way up to like your big commercial type companies. The reason why is the commercial construction companies would certainly not only benefit me and those people like Helix and Kiosk Group, but they also would benefit those people that have operations in the healthcare and medical space. They could also help benefit people that are property owners in the GovCon space or in any other market that I work in. So I also try to interweave as much as possible, because when I'm in front of any one person, there's only so many hours in the day. So every time I'm in front of someone, I'm trying to go, what, I know because the way I target myself, that not only am I a possibility to be of value to them, but 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 people in my network have a huge impact possible to play here. And that's how I'm able to make an impact each time. So that's how I focused on my verticals. It was kind of like where my experience would lead me, and then who in my network has that really unique niche where I can also play, where they have a strong presence and mean something or can make an impact. And that's how I define my verticals. So it's going to be different for everybody, but hopefully that helps a little bit. And then Keegan, to your point, there's a book by Adam Grant called Give and Take. It's probably one of my favorite books, especially in regards to networking. It talks about the 3 different personalities of traits of people. There's givers, takers, and matchers. And it describes stories of people of those varying styles. And some of these people you will recognize. So you'll know some of these people. I highly recommend getting that book. But back to your point though, Keegan, for me, when I'm looking at the referral, because I'm always based off of, I found a problem or a challenge, right? Or I understand these basic challenges and problems exist, so I should find people that solve those, right? So I prepare myself, to create that. And I'm working and looking to create partners that are going to do the same thing. It's a trial process. That's the investment in time of finding that nugget, like I did with Helix, like I did with the Kiosk Group. That took me years to find those 2 companies that, where it's mutually beneficial, like where there's a huge reward on that side. And, we're not giving referrals as much as we're creating opportunities. And there's a huge difference in that.
Love that.
Because the opportunities you can always create more of. Referrals, you're just waiting for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 2 really big points here, Mark, that I keep hearing over and over. So one is that, guys, it is so crucial to know your avatar. You've got to know exactly who you're serving. I mean, Mark opened with this. When we hear people say, oh, I help everybody. And look, I've been guilty of this too. When we first start our venture, we're so passionate about giving back and serving all these people that we're like, yeah, we just serve everybody. But then you end up serving nobody. You have to have a very specific avatar and then delegating through that. So another key that you've mentioned a lot, Mark, is that time management. There's no need to have an hour-long conversation with every single person you meet. It's going to waste your time. You know, you can probably have an efficient meeting in 15 to 30 minutes. You don't really need to go too far out of that. So being very intentional on how you spend your time. And again, when we first start our networking, we want to speak with all these people. We want to get to know people. And we're under this ideology of, you know, I don't know, maybe it is a good fit. Maybe I can serve them. Maybe they can serve me. But again, it comes down to being very specific and intentional on your avatar. Mark mentioned about lining yourself up with other industries that are serving that same people and differentiating between B2B or B2C. You know, that's really important. So these are big points. But another thing, when you were talking about the verticals, and I really like this, Mark, but you said that the 5 different verticals, and kind of what resonated with me was that we have, I broke this into 3 steps. So 1, we've got past experiences, right? So you had mentioned that you were in the military. So that was a past experience of being able to get into those government contracts. You already had a knowledge, you already had a wheelhouse of people you knew there. So using those past experiences. The next one was being very specific, you know, again, and that comes down to the B2B and the B2C, knowing exactly, hey, if I'm serving a B2B right now, what other people would be serving this similar vertical? I want to get in touch with them so we can pass referrals back to each other. And then the third one was the desired. So these are the areas that you may not have relationships or contacts in already, but you hope to, you desire to have those relationships moving forward. So I thought that those were all great points. I'd really love to hear from the ladies. Do you know, Esther, Ashley, Marlene, Jen, Patty, do you have any questions or comments or feedback? Because I would love to hear from you guys.
Well, for me, I think that the challenge is I don't have a Rolodex like somebody like Mark. You know what I mean? Like I don't have that many connects. I try and connect, but I will say, like when you talk about those 4 buckets, I think that within that first 30 minutes, you know whether you would want to refer to them. I mean, I know Keegan, you know, to me, there's I hate to sound so woohoo, but there's an energy connection or a heart connection that you feel like this is a person that you desire to work with or to help with. I had the same thing with Esther. When you meet somebody, you can tell whether they're of a generous nature or not. And so, I mean, I've gotten off of calls and it's like, I would have no desire to, you know, share their contact because they had absolutely no interest in what you were saying whatsoever. But like I said, I think for somebody like me, like I consider myself a professional networker. I love to connect people, but I don't have a Rolodex like a lot of you have. So it is going to be more sporadic, not for lack of desire. It's just for, you know, lack of that, you know, Rolodex.
Well, I mean, I'm sure someone could, you know, drop the ball on this, and it's happened where, you know, I struggled with finding the right connection, but, you know, 99% of the time, you know, it's possible to make a connection. So when someone who doesn't have a large network, like you're saying, you don't have, Patty, I mean, when I got out of the government contracting space to jump back into the commercial space, you know, my network had gone dormant for several years. And, you know, it needed to be revamped and rechanged and, you know, just altered completely. So I didn't have a lot of contacts, but I went in like, oh, I know everyone. Because initially, like just in this room alone, if you went out for a month and went and networked, and every challenge or problem that you met, if you said, oh, I know that person, I know a guy, let me reach out to them and I'll get back to you. Sure. And I guarantee if you emailed everyone in this group that issue, one person, if not more than one person, would go, oh, you know what? I do know that person. So I would tell people, right, yes, right. I know that person, regardless. And a unique example, I was in a networking group where I claimed that I'm a professional networker. And after the meeting was over, this lady who owned 2 businesses, one of them was a tree business and the other one was a countertop kitchen construction business. And she was like, oh yeah, let me put you to the test. I need a CPA that has forestry, a background and experience for tax laws. I'm like, all right, give me an hour. And I reached out to one of my network CPAs and he was like, we don't do that, but I know someone who does. Sure. Let me get back to you. Within 45 minutes of me leaving that network, I was able to give that woman a referral. And to her, it made it look like I knew that guy.
Right.
And then a month later, she called me up. I never once mentioned credit card processing to her outside of telling her what I did during the elevator pitch. And she called me up unsolicited. She's like, Mark, I would love to talk to you about credit card processing. So that, that's a unique example that just, all the wins lined up perfectly for me. But it was in the process of, I just told her like, yeah, I know a guy. And I didn't. I knew I had a large enough network that somebody would.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I have a decent network and I try and do that, but I think I mentioned this last week. What I'm trying to do is get very specific of getting like my top 10 people that I feel I have a connection with, that I want to really try and promote them or connect them or refer them. So I'm working on that too, getting specific, in other words.
Well, I mean, for me, like, I don't try to refer anybody. I just try to know everybody that's really good at any potential challenge that one of my prospects comes up with. And when they tell me what that problem or challenge is, oh, I know somebody. I don't go, oh, hey, you need this. Because then you're trying to force a referral. And I lean on my clients, my good prospects that I work with. They don't just give me sales slicks. They give me content that explains the problems they solve, the challenges they overcome. Because then I can share that with potential prospects before a referral to go, hey, I've talked to several businesses that are just like yours, and they've had this issue, and I found out this information was quite helpful for them. I thought of you first and wanted to share it with you. Mm-hmm. Right? That's a way to introduce someone where you're not going, oh, let me share some information about a potential problem that I've recognized in your market, in your vertical, in your industry. And at the very least, if they read it, they take a look at it, the owner should, or the person that received it, go, wow, Patty thought of me outside of what she's trying to sell me. That goes into that bucket of adding to that value add of being a thought leader and not just someone trying to sell them something.
So
Sorry
Mark,
for that long-winded answer.
I've got a question on this, and this is a point I wanted to bring up earlier, but this is a perfect transition. So, we talked about the bucket of people that are willing to make the referrals, but they might not know how to do so. So my question to you and to the group as a whole is, have you used a one-pager in the past, or do you have just a simple paragraph text format that you can send? I'd love to hear what your thoughts and experiences on that. So just to explain a little bit further, what I mean is, let's say that, Dylan and Mark meet, right? And they have their first conversation. They have an incredible conversation. And just like Mark is saying, you want to be able to serve and provide value and impact that might not directly lead to what your product is or your service is. So would you leave a one-pager? Hey, Mark, had a great conversation with you today. Love speaking with you. If you know anybody that falls into that category, here is my one-pager, or here is a quick paragraph that you can share. What is your experience or thoughts on this?
Well, if you've met someone, let's say it's for the first time, you've struck a good chord and you're both in agreement, like, hey, you'd like to continue this. Yeah, you should have a one-pager that kind of gives your elevator pitch and the markets that you're focusing on, right? So they can better identify that. But you're not leaving that as like, oh, good, that one's done. I'm just going to sit back and wait for referrals. Because like, I prefer one, I used to write out these very lengthy, lovely worded email introductions. And I realized that I could whip out some of them in 5 minutes, and other ones would take me 30 to 40 minutes to create because I wanted to get it just right. I don't have that kind of time because the amount of referrals I'm given and my other work duties just couldn't do it. So now when I give a referral, I, either email or phone call with both potential parties. And I give them a download of why I want to make an introduction. And when they go both, yeah, that sounds like I want that introduction for whatever reason, great. When I do an email introduction, it is, hey, Keegan, I spoke with, hey, Keegan and Ben, I've had the opportunity to speak with you both, and I feel there's a great reason for you guys to connect. Happy connecting. Take care, Mark. Right? Because they both already physically know, right? And I want them to start off their conversation on an organic level. But to get to that point, it is an educational process that can't be done just with giving them a one-pager. How are they saying what you're saying? Now, I have 4 to 6 elevator pitches that I know, not verbatim, like I couldn't repeat someone's elevator pitch, but I know the value out of it enough to stick into a conversation when I'm speaking with somebody. Right? So it sounds like I really know them. So I'm consulting. That's very important. And it's your job to teach people how to weave that in and what to weave in and where to weave it in, right? It's a learning process. It works differently for everybody. And you want to learn how to do that from your most key. Anyone who can play a part and makes an impact with the customers you're going after, it behooves you to learn how to weave their impact in, because I hate salespeople that reach out to someone who's not yet their customer, but's been on that line for a while. And they do, hey, I've just been reaching out to, and essentially everything else is because I'm tired of you not saying yes. When are you going to say yes? Please say yes. I hate that when they're just asking, oh, I'm following up simply to find out why you haven't given me your contract yet. I may say that, but I'm going to say it in a soft-handed way. Hey, Ben, I recently came across some information and I think this person would be a great introduction. I know we've got some things going on that we were hoping to speak about, but I couldn't wait. I thought this would be of interest to you today. And that's a great way to stay in contact with someone. So your network can also provide an easier way for you to follow up with your client prospects that are not yet clients. So you're not just reaching out, where you're giving them something like, hey, I found an interesting article. I love that line. I thought of you first. I've sent out an article to 20 different people in a row that had that same line. Hey, I came across this fantastic article and I thought it'd be of great benefit for you. I thought of you first. People love being thought of first.
Yeah.
So
no, I love that. So just one quick thing, and I'd love your guys' feedback on this. Has anybody heard of Miller's Law? So Miller's Law is the number magic. You may have heard this as Magic 7. So what this states is that the average adult has a short-term memory that can only retain 7 items plus or minus 2. So that puts us in a range of 5 to 9. So an actionable item that I would challenge everybody on this call to do between now and the next time that we speak, go through your list and the people that you network with and the people that you feel really comfortable referring and creating these great resources. I would challenge you to create a team of 5 to 9 people in your current networking group. So for example, Roberto, if Roberto does web development or web design, and he is doing that directly B2C, business to consumer, not business to business, I would create a team of 5 to 9 people that are also working in those similar verticals, people that are B2C, that have similar avatars to the people that I serve. And I would create that team. So now once you have 5 to 9 people, they're top of mind. And it's, hey, look, I just met this new person. That would be a great referral for so-and-so. But to have that organized team and to say, look, these are the people that I'm really close with. These are the people, as Mark mentioned, he said that he has about 6 people that he, more or less, maybe not word for word, but pretty much knows their value prop, right? He knows how to introduce them. He knows what value they're bringing to their team. Having those 5 to 9 people are going to help your business move forward, because if you can refer, as he mentioned, a financial advisor to somebody that's looking for that, even though that has no direct benefit to you, by creating that value and that impact to your prospects or your current clients, it's just going to bring that value up. The more value and impact that you can bring that's outside of the dollar figure, the better your business is. I mean, I would probably assume, and you guys may or may not be aware with LTV. So what LTV is, the lifetime value of a client, meaning that if I have one client, I'll say Joe Lepler is really good at this, right? So the LTV for him would be, if he creates a web page, he wants to have that hosting fee. So he may have a hosting fee where he brings a lot of additional value, but what that does is it brings a small amount every month for an entire year. So being able to have that lifetime value and create this value for other people is just astronomical outside of what you're actually providing in terms of value. So guys, we only have a couple more minutes left. I would love to hear any last minute questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, snide remarks. Roberto.
I have a question. For me, it's kind of hard. I've been trying to develop a database for contacts. That way I can easily just Command F, find what I need for that person that I'm on the call with, or later on just refer to that database to see who does what. And to build this has been a task, and I'm not really sure how to make it better. Currently, it's just a spreadsheet of names and numbers and adjectives and who knows what else. I'm kind of lost in the sauce. So I'm trying to figure out what type of tools do you know of, if any, to create a better system for this?
What are you trying to accomplish with it?
Well, my memory is shot, so I'm trying to just have a list of people that I can refer to. Let's say you need IT services. I can, on this call, I could just type in IT and have all these people that do IT that I can say, well, I have 6 contacts that I could point you to. What type of IT do you need? And that all that information is listed there for these
I mean,
people.
you could eventually probably turn it into a really neat app. I mean, through a lot of development, but starting on a spreadsheet where you have one category of, vertical. So you have IT, but then you're going to have categories of IT. Like these guys are on the maintenance infrastructure side. This IT company is on app development, right? So they're all
Right.
under IT. So then you could have, that's a second layer designation. But then you could get so far, I'll use digital marketing, for example. I have one company that is above any other company that I work with in the sense where they only get one type of referral from me. They're a company that, one of their customers is Volkswagen Corporate, right? A company that spends 6 figures on a marketing campaign, right? When I come across a customer that is in that range, I only introduce them to that one particular guy. And then I have some marketing guys that are really good with the B2C. So I use those guys. So in your spreadsheet or your app thing, I would have 5 or 6 different web developers. And then like one of their other categories would be, where their specific focus is. Like this guy's really good with, I know one guy that's really good with e-commerce, right? So, I don't send him someone who's got a face-to-face business because that's not his forte.
Is that your tool? Do you use a spreadsheet or do you have a specific application
No, it's just my own ADD. I just tend to remember problems very well. But also like I know what I'm looking for. So, I only need to know a handful of people, but when I get to know someone really well in my network and they go, well, Mark, how can I really help you? And I did this to Keegan, and this is how I found you. I said, Keegan, he goes, Mark, how can I really help you? I'm like I'm looking for someone that just does something so unique that other people's need to know who this guy is and what they do. Right? And that's how I got to Helix. That's how I found Kiosk Group. Because when you find someone like Helix, like literally, there's no one that does what they do. If you're focusing on a market where they play a benefit, knowing who those guys are puts you a leg up over anybody. And so I look for those guys, and then it's easy for me to remember. Yes, I come in contact with people all the time, but I'm looking for that the high value one. So not that I don't have room for everybody else, but like I'm at the point now where I'm not being an ass about it, but you kind of have to prove it in a sense where like, is your value really there? I'll recognize it if it is, and I'll try to show you where it's at. But if I don't see it, it's your job to make me see it if I don't see it. And if you don't, then I'm too busy working with the guys like Helix, the Kiosk Group, and 4 or 5 other guys. And I don't mean that to be an ass, but that's how how I'm maintaining my level of success. It's targeting, it's focused. And I help where I can. So sorry about that. Long-winded.
No, that's cool.
So Roberto, I just want to, I'll connect with you later, but I do know someone who designed a system for what you're looking for. And besides that, or for anyone that really wants to hear about it, but for anyone for like my clients who want to organize their data, they are tools like HubSpot. There's different tools online that can help you organize and segment different people into different segments.
Categories, uses,
categories. There's like different ways, and you can do it by from beginning that you meet them. There are ways to have it done automatically. Like I like to do things on automatic as much as possible. So there's a way to pretty much have the data do its own work as long as you set it up right.
100%.
So we're gonna have to wrap up, guys, but You know, one last thing to consider, Roberto, have you met Garrett Halsell?
I don't think so.
Him and Conrad have a platform called Introde, which basically does exactly what you're talking about. You can go back over like a 5-year
Yeah.
time frame and see exactly who you spoke with or who you connected and have all. So just something to consider. But
you actually connected me.
cool. Yeah, I
Just
would
the
I would
name
reach
didn't-
out to them a little bit. But there's a bunch of resources. But guys, look, this was an awesome call. We had a lot of questions, a lot of feedback, a lot of great stuff. Mark was generous enough to send the outline from today's presentation. So I'm gonna send that out to everybody in an email here shortly. But thank you all so much for your time. I mean, I think this is one of the really important conversations and topics. Hope you guys gained some value. Have an incredible Tuesday and an incredible week. I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday.
Thank you, Keegan.
Thanks, guys.
See you
Thank
guys.
you so
everyone.
much.
Thanks, Mark. See you,
You're
Joe.
welcome.
Good
Thanks.
seeing everyone. Thank you.